Hi everybody, welcome to the video and live streaming show. I'm John Lacey and I'm joined as always by Sam Proof. Today we're going to take you behind the scenes and give you a bit of an insight into our content creation processes. So that's coming up on today's show. Sam, how you doing? How's your week been?
Busy. It feels like crazy busy. I don't even know what I've done, but I feel very hectic. We had a little vacation last week, so I wasn't here for the last show, and I threw John to the wolves to fend for himself. But we went up the coast for a little while. We did some vacation stuff, and then we came back, and it's just been like foster cat stuff all over the place. We had a lot of chaos in the cat world, and that's going to continue into the weekend when we go to CatCon in Pasadena on Sunday. So if anyone's out there in the Los Angeles area and you're a cat lover, go to CatCon. Try and find us. How's things with you, John?
Things are going pretty well. Again, it's been I don't know, every day blurs into another in my world. Every day is blur's day, as I like to say, but it hasn't been too bad. I get the feeling that now that the American summer is sort of coming to a close, that
Mm.
the world's shifting a little bit. But I think I mentioned this last time, but it's been very, very quiet on certain pieces of social media, so that's been interesting. But hopefully, people are returning back to some routines. I mean, as much as I'd love you to stay on holiday forever, by all means, stay on holiday. Just make sure you join this show occasionally. And
Yeah.
speaking of joining the show, let us know in the chat. We're going out live to all the various places, so let us know where you're watching from. Whether you're watching live, you can do the hashtag Team Live, or if you're watching later on, you can do Team Replay. So let us know where you're watching from, and if there are any particular questions you would like us to answer as we get started today, let us know what those would be in the chats. But let's get kicked off and let's talk about video, because obviously this is the video and live streaming show. Sam, talk to me about how you actually create videos and record videos and edit videos, all that good stuff.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think before you even do that, you have to have a mind of like, what am I going to take from my live stream to make my videos and things like that? And how am I going to segment it and do some specific things? As you can see, we've added a new tabbing system, which will help us in the future to actually kind of make some quick edit decisions to like cut things down of like, here's a segment on video. But once I've got that, I've got my archive. I like to use CapCut, which is a free editing software provided by ByteDance, the people that brought you TikTok. What are we using here? This thing? Or, yeah, that's fine. Or do we
Mm-hmm.
want to go this one? Who cares? But yeah, so this is CapCut, and CapCut is for a free software, just kind of brilliant. It gives you all of your basic needs and more. So you have your quick access to a timeline, and you can do any of the formats. So if I go over here to my ratio, I can do a traditional 16 by 9. I'm in 9 by 16 right now. I could turn this into a 1 by 1. I just did it right away, and it does a pretty decent job of recentering everything. Didn't mean to make this a particular promo for any brands, but but apparently I did choose that. I wasn't thinking. I just went, that's a fun image. But yeah, you can then do a bunch of different things to adjust your video, and really anything you can do in something as as complicated as DaVinci or as Adobe Premiere. CapCut can pretty much do it. There's some nuance that it does not have the ability to do, but for the most part, 98% of your video needs will be accomplished by this, especially if you're taking content and repurposing it to make shorts or vertical videos from one thing, or just clips from something else. Then this is by far uh, more than you even need at times. You have things like audio. You can add different kind of animations to bring your assets around and things like that. You have transitions, you have different effects. And for those of you who love all of those sort of mobile gimmicks, it does give you text that you can throw up on your screen real easy, and stickers. And it even does, and this is, I think, one of our favorite features, both John and mine, is auto captioning, which will do a fairly decent job of listening to what is being said and creating a caption. And then um, giving you the ability to both edit that caption singularly or globally. So if you make style changes, it affects everything in that auto caption. And yeah, I've recently used this for some really complex videos. Traditionally, I've been just doing like I said, vertical videos and shorts and things like that. But I did a video that you can see at youtube.com/cuteavalanche promoting our ball launcher that is sort of a parody of that old school 80s monster truck rally commercial. And it is very fast paced. There's a lot of crazy cuts happening and effects being played. And like what you see here on my screen is what, 5 layers deep or something like that, 6 maybe. I was up at like 12 layers in with different effects and things like that, and you know there's no performance loss. It handles it great. It renders fast. It's fantastic. They should pay me for for this.
I mean, to the extent that it is literally free software, it is.
Yeah,
It's very feature rich, and
it really is.
it's funny because I think across the internet, a lot of people do sort of push you towards that DaVinci Resolve thing, but it's some very heavy duty software, and
Yeah.
people there's one hell of a learning curve, whereas CapCut is a lot more straightforward. So that
Yeah.
is certainly something to keep in mind.
Yeah, I like the UI, and I think it does have a really good ease of use, like to get you into it for that first time. It is mobile, it is desktop. They even have a browser version. So it is, and they're syncable. Like you can cloud share your project to all of those. And then when you want to get into more advanced stuff, it's there. So you can do it. Like you want to do like VO, that's built in. You want to do like motion tracking. You know, it's not that hard to then take it to that next level, which is great.
And there are sort of a desktop version, a mobile version, and even something in the cloud. So, you do
Yeah.
have a lot of options. And especially if you're working on a project where maybe you are recording on your phone and maybe you want to edit on your desktop, there are certainly ways of doing that. Um, I'm just going to check into the chat for a second. So, hi to CG. Thank you for joining us.
Hey, CG.
And Walt Strong the Third from the NBA Sports
That's who that
Talk
is.
is saying
Hey,
good evening
Walter.
as well.
Welcome
Thank you for
back.
joining us. Today, we're talking all about giving you a bit of an insight into behind the scenes of our content creation processes. So we're going to be talking about video, streaming, podcasting, and our websites. So that's all coming up shortly. I'm going to talk to you about how I work with video right now. And I might need to just make myself a little bit bigger in this scene so you can get a sense of this. So this is TechSmith's Camtasia software. So this is generally what I use for editing and recording. And the great thing about this, especially someone who is sort of, very into software tutorials, is that I can actually I can record my screen and myself simultaneously. So if I just show you this new recording option, it should pop up in just a second. Famous last words. Oh, okay. Anyway, so it's complaining that it can't find my camera because it's already in use. And in fact, I think it's knocked me out too. I'm going to just use something else. Famous last words. Okay. I don't know if, and I'm pretty sure I've seized up in OBS. So what I might do, let me, as long as you can hear me, I'll keep going. So essentially here, I can record a screen, I can record a camera, I can record a microphone. I can even grab system audio here as well. So these are ways that I can actually capture these things individually and edit them together. But if I just close out of that for a second and take you back into the software itself, you'll see that I've got a lot of different projects here. I'm going to open this one. Hopefully, actually, that's not a great example, but I've clicked it now, so I guess I probably have to live with that choice. Let's try this one. So it's a little bit bigger. So yeah, and thank you for everybody joining us in the chat right now. Good to see you. I'm always a little distracted by the fact that we have this this great chatbot stuff happening in the chat, but that's okay. We can deal.
Sorry. I have a Twitch game that I usually turn off, but apparently it auto logged in this time around.
Honestly, I might have been a little bit too too ambitious thinking I can open this. So we might, Sam, maybe if we'll go to
Sure.
our,
Well,
our first
while you're
promo of today.
go for it.
Um, let's check this out. We'll be back in just a moment.
We are constantly training our cats every interaction that we have with them.
Mm-hmm.
So when Johan would get on my counter before, this is 10 years ago, before I was the cat expert that I am now, Johan would jump on the counter. What was the first thing I did? I'd say his name, Johan. He loves that. That's a reward for him. He said, you just said my name. I would go over to him and I'd talk to him and be like, you can't be on the counter. Johan loves when I talk to him. Ding, that's another reward for Johan. I'd pick him up and put him on the ground, but I didn't want him to think I was mad at him. So when I'd pick him up very nicely and kiss him on the head and say, I love you, but you can't be here. I'd put him on the ground. I had just done 3 things that rewarded him for being on the counter. So I was encouraging him to continue doing that.
Okay.
Oh no.
I'm just gonna let you talk for a minute, and
sure,
I'm gonna try and sort this out in the background.
All right, we'll take a quick look at some comments while John's working on that. Hello from Bali. Hello from John's in Australia and I'm in Los Angeles. Hello, thank you. So we started using StreamYard. Recently, we'd been using Restream, and apparently our LinkedIn thing doesn't actually tell us who's who. But yeah, Camtasia is a great program as well. I'm going to try and log into LinkedIn so I can actually see who's who. Personal preference is just I like CapCut. John likes Camtasia. We actually have a video where we go over sort of a head-to-head of Camtasia versus CapCut, which you can find on our YouTube. All right, I use StreamYard, never had one tech issue. Can't be dealing with OBS and others with too many features. Yeah, we use the virtual camera in OBS, both of us, to come into StreamYard just so that we can like record locally and things like that. And John's back, so we'll get to the rest of these comments in a little bit. I think John's back. Which thing are we here? All right. You are.
Okay, I am back. I was hoping to show you a bit more in Camtasia. Again, we might need to just leave that for the moment. I don't think my computer can quite deal with that at the moment, but I'll talk to you about Camtasia conceptually, and maybe we can stitch something together a little bit later on. But as Sam did note, we do literally have an entire show sort of comparing the features of CapCut, which Sam uses, and Camtasia, which I use. So essentially, like, the really nice thing about Camtasia is that it does capture not just you, but also your audio, your screen, and your system audio as well. And the great thing about the way it captures the your screen is it'll actually capture the metadata. So it'll actually record the path that your mouse took, and it'll do all kinds of weird and wonderful things. And you can sort of zoom into different parts of the screen. You can zoom out there as well. There's all kinds of really neat stuff that you can do there. And, it's really quite handy in terms of, and actually one thing, and I know Sam and I have mentioned this before, but one thing that I really love is the Camtasia library feature, because I can sort of select elements on my timeline, and I can just literally bring them into my library. And especially for me, like I start with my videos, and I will have a version that has an extra 15 seconds on it for an end card at the end for YouTube. I might even remix a vertical version of that as well. So I can just sort of save these things or put them into the library and remix them all. So that's all happening. And a big hello to...
Yeah. Oh, go ahead. I was just going to say hi. Yeah. I will say that is, I think, the big pain point in CapCut, where Camtasia or DaVinci or Adobe Premiere do excel, is CapCut is very much like, this is the project you're working on. It does not have a global media library where you can be like, oh, what was that clip I used 2 videos ago? I want to bring that in. You have one project, one timeline. So unlike the other software, you're a little more restricted in that way, and that is something I do miss. And it's weird that Michelle's name actually came through being a LinkedIn. The other person was Roy, who I believe is now over on our YouTube.
He is, yes. And we should probably formalize that, but I believe you need to go to a specific link on StreamYard and give them
Okay.
permission to access that information on LinkedIn, but that's fine. So hello to Michelle. Thank you so much for joining us. Hi, Roy. Hi, Edna. Yes, yeah, Edna's been wondering how on earth she got here, but I was on Roy's show a couple of weeks ago. Again, time means nothing in my world, so it may have been shorter or longer than that.
Nice.
So, and Edna is just saying that she's addicted to YouTube related content. What can I say? So yeah, that's all good. Again, I was really hoping to give you a bit more of an insight into how I use Camtasia, but my computer is not playing nicely, as is the custom with live. You've got to roll with whatever happens when you do go live. So that's part of the game. But again, let's move on to our next area today, which is actually live streaming, Sam. So let's talk about. I guess, first of all, we should probably acknowledge the fact that we were using Restream Studio and we're currently using StreamYard. So we'll talk about those briefly. And you can just tell me what you're enjoying from each, I guess.
Yeah, they are both very similar in a good amount of ways. They've parodied each other in the past few years and things like that. So there are a few minor differences. But for the most part, you get, all of these built-in features. For those of you too intimidated by OBS, this is a quick, easy, like opt-in kind of situation of like, I want to go live stream. I have no idea how to do it. This is the quick and easy way to do it. Both give you sort of pre-built scenes, and then you just be like, I'm going to put the camera here. I'm going to put a PowerPoint here, and boom. StreamYard does take it to the next level where you have some customization to those scenes that you can make. They do both allow you to drop comments, show the comments on the screen, as John's been doing. I'm reading chat to my distraction. You can have a bunch of different assets that you use as like overlays or videos, as you've seen us do in this show already a few different times. Both of them have built-in music libraries. I believe the Restream one is like completely AI, and the StreamYard one is not. I think it's just tracks that they've made, but you can also upload your own. And I don't know if this applies to Restream, but with StreamYard there is even a green room for some of the more expensive plans, where you can have like this kind of situation happening where it's just between you and the guests. And then you push them into the live. So if you have an actual team working, you can have moderators or producers kind of prepping people as your host gets ready for them to come on and things like that. So they're pretty complex programs in their capabilities, but without that complex UI.
Absolutely. And I guess, and it's funny because I like, don't get me wrong, I really love Restream Studio. I really love StreamYard. But I guess for me, as an OBS Studio user, and again, I mentioned this to Sam before we started today, like the thing about OBS and even Ecamm Live is that you're building out entire scenes. So whereas with StreamYard, with Restream Studio, you're really working with layouts, backgrounds, and overlays, and that's about it. And it's not to say that you can't build out complex things with those, but the thing that I struggle with a little bit is that I want to switch to a different scene and simultaneously change the background and maybe even change the overlay at the same time. And I can't really do that.
Even before we started this show, we had just opted into this new sort of tabbed background layout, and I was like, it would be really great if we were able to go to, I'm going to do this live, this sort of situation. But as you can see, it has decided to go to John and not me. There's no smart way to do that without me having to then remove John to get me on here. So unfortunately, there are a few things that could be better. Let's go back to this. And now we both tried to add ourselves. Wasn't I over here? Let's do that. So
yeah, okay,
one nice thing is that that's a nice feature. What I just did is actually a drag and drop with the cameras where you don't actually have to do any kind of hotkey or anything. You can just physically click on the screen and move the asset around. So that's kind of cool. The thing I kind of didn't mention at all is that both of them give you the ability to do multicasting to a variety of channels depending on which plan you're on. So, they both have a free version, which I think gives you 2, maybe 3 channels depending on the platform or the software. And then they progress more and more. The more you pay, the more platforms you can do. There's always a bunch of other bonus features to the point where I'm like, I don't know that I would ever use that. I wish it was just, this one feature set or something. Anyway.
Sure. Like, do you want to talk us through the overlays that you've uploaded for StreamYard specifically?
Sure. So just to get a sense of what we're looking at, you can see our screen here. This is literally what we have right now is our dashboard. So you got the video player above. Below, you'll see all those gray boxes. Those are your scenes. So they give you, this is what I think StreamYard does a little better than Restream is these scenes give you sort of a better indication of what's actually going to happen when you click on those buttons. It's just the fact that they have these profile icons makes it just that much more clear, where Restream's is a little more muddied. And then on the right, you have the ability to put in like a brand color and sort of change the theme, which is really just you want sharp edges or rounded corners or, that sort of thing. You can upload a logo, and here's your overlay assets and things like that. I didn't get another screenshot, but under that, there's video clips and backgrounds and music. And then the other big thing is this is when you're going to start your, this should have been a side-by-side or something probably, but whatever. Hey, it's you. And that's why we didn't do a side-by-side. But yeah, so when you go to start your video, you get this screen that allows you to set your broadcast up and choose all of the platforms you want. You can even customize the title and descriptions per platform. Certain ones like YouTube, it'll even let you do the thumbnail and things like that. I think I don't know. If anyone has questions about StreamYard, just let me know. Well, that's not what I meant to do. There we go.
Okay, cool. And Restream is a very similar sort of experience. It does, like, you are much more constrained in terms of the layouts. StreamYard gives you the ability to customize your own, although which is a relatively new feature. Like, it's a couple of months old, I think. Again, time has no meaning. Don't quote me on that. But again, like you sort of have these basic layouts. You can send somebody an invite, bring them into the scene. You've got the chat and the captions and the graphics. Restream Studio does actually have some cool shopping features. So they've actually got the ability to use QR codes and actually send people off. They can scan it with their phone and go and purchase something or go to your lead magnet or whatever you like. I did start with Restream. I really like Restream, but I must admit, lately, the thing that I had been finding is that I would click a button in Restream Studio and it would take a solid 3 seconds to register. And I don't know if that's something to do with my browser or my computer or what it is, but I'm certainly not experiencing that now that we're in StreamYard. So I might just have needed to clear the cache and whatnot. But anyway, I do want to check in with the chat because there's a whole bunch of stuff going on. And first of all, apologies to Ender Trading. I called you Edna. There's a reason for that, but it's probably too long and weird to get into right now. I'm obsessed with Dame Edna, and Barry Humphries, the person that played that character, passed away recently. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Tatiana Rodriguez, hello. First time here. It's so great to see you. Also, there are some great things in here. Michelle J. Raymond, who's like the most helpful person on all of LinkedIn, is saying if you are watching on LinkedIn and you do need to give those permissions, hit her up because she'll tell you how to do that. And we might need to build that into our show description so that people can do that as well. Insomnia Doodles, she's not listening to us, but she's letting it run in the background for the views, which frankly we appreciate. So she's bowling, which is fun. And again, we do have some great comments here. So Tatiana is saying, I'll recommend these to my college students as alternatives to OBS for projects. I use Ecamm, but I know that students won't all be able to pay for software. We're going to talk about OBS in next week's show. And I know some people have feelings about that, but we really love that piece of software. It is literally free. It's cross-platform. Even if you're not going live, there are things that you can do with the virtual camera and even just recording local videos. And they could be vertical, they could be horizontal. So we are going to do that. Roy is saying it's a feature in quote marks. I don't really remember what that was in reference to.
I think
but,
it was probably when I was pulling up the thing and expecting my camera to be on, but it went to yours. That is,
yes.
in fact, yeah. So many things.
And I guess Sam, I love you, but I think in future we need to make sure our screenshots are actually the right size so they cover the whole shot. But that's neither here nor there. So
I made a snap judgment on that one. I knew it going into it.
Okay, so we're going to come back and we're going to talk about podcasting and how we actually work with our websites. We want to take more of your questions and comments as well, so include those. But I alluded to the fact that Michelle J. Raymond is incredibly helpful. Let's hear from her again.
And then I looked at the first assessment, and the first assessment was record a 5-minute video, and it was a pretty simple introduction of yourself. There was nothing exciting. I didn't have to research. It was just a 5-minute warm-up. And I freaked out. That course is still sitting in the cupboard beside me. I see that stack of papers and I almost rock in the corner. It cost me a lot of money to sign up, and I threw the whole course away.
And you can hear that interview with Michelle J. Raymond on my podcast, To Build a Presentation Muscle, which you can check out at johnlacey.com. But today we are talking about going behind the scenes in terms of our content creation. And we've spoken a little bit about video and streaming, but we do want to talk about podcasting. Podcasting is something that I think is something that I as much as I love video, I can't multitask while I'm watching videos. Like I need to be physically in one place. Whereas if you have something on audio, I can throw it on my phone. I can go for a walk. I can do chores around the house. And it's funny because I kind of feel like if more people took their streams and cut them up and did whatever they needed to do and threw them on that RSS feed, I'd probably enjoy more of their content. And I know that's a weird thing to say on the video and live streaming show, but it's kind of true for me. So I guess I want to talk you through what I actually do for that specific podcast. And I guess the video I'm about to show you is for the solo episodes. I just featured the one with Michelle. It's a little bit of a different arrangement for guests, but let's have a look behind the scenes as I show you how I work with Hindenburg Pro 2. Hi, everybody. My name's John Lacey. I don't normally record my podcast episodes on camera, but I thought I would try something a little bit different today and give you a bit of a peek behind the scenes. So first of all, I'm going to show you my script. My show, Build a Presentation Muscle, is a scripted show. I know some of you are probably already having some very visceral reactions to that. I think reading is an important skill. I hear a lot of people say that they can't read, so they don't read, and that's fine. I mean, you do you, but at the end of the day, especially with my background in community radio, there are just certain things that you don't improvise. Like you don't make up the weather, you don't make up the news, you don't make up the traffic. There may be legal disclaimers that you need to read. So I think it's really worthwhile to actually practice reading as a skill. But you'll see in the background here that I've also got Hindenburg Pro running. So this is actually what I use to record my episodes. So I'm going to read this and, I'll probably make some mistakes and have to do a few extra takes. The one thing I will say about doing additional takes is that it's a really good idea to actually take a moment and read the whole sentence or the whole phrase again. It can be really tempting sometimes to want to only just repeat the word you tripped up on, and you can certainly edit that together, but it's so much more natural if you just do the entire phrase again. So that all said, I'm going to read through this and we're going to see how we go. And I'm probably not going to be looking at the camera because when I normally record these, I look to a monitor that's just off the side. So I get lots of people dropping into my DMs and saying, hey, you're not looking at the camera enough. Sometimes I have to look elsewhere. I make no apologies for that. I'm sorry. Hi, I'm John Lacey, and this is Build a Presentation Muscle. I want to talk to you about that title, Build a Presentation Muscle, because some people have told me that it's kind of confusing. They don't know what it means, and some people have recommended that I change. And some people have even recommended that I change it. You can head over to johnlacey.com to send me a voicemail via SpeakPipe or find the social media links to reach out to me. Okay, I think that was all right. We're going to stop that. My favorite thing, I do really like Hindenburg Pro as a piece of software. And one of my favorite features about this in particular is we have this great thing where I can actually learn and apply profiles. I know, I suspect a lot of people have a definitive profile that they use for everything. Because I'm still learning, I actually learn the profile each time and it does, like, I'm sure it's only doing a bit of EQ and a bit of compression, but it sounds so much better than anything I could produce organically. So I will let that go for a few minutes to do its thing. And I'll stop that and I will go up to apply profile. And it will say profile applied to track speak. But basically from here, I can come in and I can listen to this again, and I can go in and the JL scrubbing is really, really useful. I can come in here and do my clips, and once everything is done, I can export this. I'll work on some artwork for the podcast. I'll upload it to Libsyn, and it'll be out tomorrow morning. So that's essentially how I work behind the scenes. And this is like an 8-minute long video, so you won't see all of this probably, but I just wanted to give you some insight into how the sausage is made. So that essentially is how I work with Hindenburg Pro R2, and it's a great piece of software, and it is very much designed for voice narration and podcast editing. But Sam, obviously you have your own podcast. Can you talk to us? And I know you've mentioned how you have these sort of video conversations in the past, but like, what do you do in terms of the audio and the podcasting side of all of this?
Sure. I mean, for the most part, I'm doing my podcast as live streams these days. Actually, almost always. I've in the past done most of them as live streams as well. So the first and foremost, you want to make sure that your audio is as good as it can be when you're going live, because that's what you're going to be using. But also you want to make sure you can do things to quickly do edits after the fact. So I have a bunch of tricks that I use my Stream Deck to put different marks in or record timestamps when I know I'm trying to pull out large pauses and things like that. I typically use Audacity for all of my audio needs. Though these days I've been doing a lot more rush jobs on a lot of things because we are doing the video, and I've been leaving a lot as video because you can now do video podcasts on Spotify, which is great because Spotify, which is right here, will also then let you do a move. Oh geez, how do I do the thing where I'm on top of that? Anyway, Spotify will actually let you push your podcast to other podcast connections and things like that, so you can do this.
And I guess just as a bit of background, this is Spotify for podcasters, which used to be called Anchor.fm.
Exactly.
And essentially you can upload the video there, and you can watch the video or listen to the audio on Spotify, but it'll actually send out the audio via the RSS to all the other places that you sort of nominate. So and that's quite a useful thing to keep in mind as well. So you mentioned Audacity there. Obviously, there's a bit of a trend here I'm seeing. Like, Sam is very big on the free software. I tend to pay a little bit of money for mine. Nothing wrong with being free. And again, like I know Tatiana mentioned students, you know, they always have a budget. So what do you like about using Audacity?
I mean, most of it was free. Every once in a while, it does give me a curveball where I'm like, how the F do I use this filter? Because a lot of their filters are just like, you know, kind of defaulted to weird settings. There's a good amount of like, I need to go YouTube for 20 minutes just to figure out how to use like this echo effect without it being like 20 stadiums worth of echo.
Yeah.
and stuff like that. But yeah, it is free. It does pretty much all the things you would need it to do. And you can do multiple tracks and things like that. So I think it's a fine piece of software to start with.
I think it is a great option. Just gonna check out the chat for a second. So Ender Trading, can you all do a video on editing with CapCut and some of the more advanced features available? We have done an entire show on CapCut versus Camtasia. So if you hit that up on the YouTube channel that you're watching after the show, you can check that out. But we're happy to do another show and maybe go a little bit deeper. That would be really good. So this is an interesting question. So I think audio, or a comment, I suppose. I think audio only podcasts are fading in popularity. I only listen to podcasts on YouTube, even if I'm not even watching. And this is interesting because different people have different feelings about this. And there was nothing more contentious for a while in the audio podcasting community than YouTube calling playlist podcasts. So there's all kinds of different ways of doing it. I guess in the context of just kidding around, which is one of Sam's podcasts, it actually starts life on YouTube as a live stream, doesn't it?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Just Kidding Around, which is our cat-based podcast. We talk to cat experts, and it is a live stream. So you have that extra effort of like having to schedule like your guest within a time slot that makes sense to your audience, which is always great. But the actual product is really the after, which is the audio video podcast that then gets uploaded to Spotify. And it's very much the same method as I use for taking this show and turning it into a podcast, which is we do it live, I download or record locally, and then trim the fat out of it, if you will, and upload that to Spotify and go with it. Spotify converts it to an audio, and that goes out to all of the other platforms. And yeah, it's a relatively quick process, honestly.
It's and I guess we could do an entire deep dive on that, and I probably want to resist that particular urge because we have a whole extra topic to get through. But I guess for most people, like if you're just creating something and putting it out into the world for free, it totally makes sense to share that as widely as possible and let people enjoy it however they want to enjoy it. I did literally say at the beginning of this segment, if I can download it to my phone and listen in the background, there's a much higher chance of me actually enjoying your content. And I know that some people will pay for like YouTube Premium, and eventually I think it's rolling out to YouTube Music as well. So, I mean, it's all converging. I guess that's the message that I try to send is like, don't be too obsessed over whether you're looking into a camera or talking into a microphone or writing something down in text. It's really about the message and the information that you're sharing.
Yeah. Yeah, because, you may have people at a bowling alley, or you may have people who are playing Diablo. So keep it in mind.
Absolutely.
I think when you look to do, a podcast or a live stream that you're going to turn into a podcast, you do need to take into account that this is going to be something where people aren't going to be watching. So make sure that if you're presenting elements on screen, you are describing those elements. You're doing what we call a walk and talk to like really explain step by step what you're doing so that they do not have to be watching. But if they are, bonus.
Absolutely. And again, like, I have heard people say when they do a live stream that's also released as audio, sometimes they will say, hey, I'll describe this for you, but if you want to get the full experience, head over to my YouTube channel. And like that can be really, really powerful as well. So I guess for me, the builder presentation muscle, my podcast, one of the features in Libsyn is that I can upload a widescreen image and it will just treat that like a video and send it to YouTube. I don't know that many people are watching that, but that's probably true of everything I do online. No one cares. But again, like it's another place that people can go, and some people prefer that way. And like, unless there's a really specific reason that I only want people to go to a platform, maybe because I'm trying to build a following there, or maybe because there's some promotional arrangement or advertising arrangement, I really don't I wouldn't lose too much sleep over just throwing it wherever it needs to be. Okay, this is the video and live streaming show. I'm John Lacey and I'm joined by Sam Proof. Today we're going behind the scenes to show you all kinds of weird and wonderful random things that we like to do. And we're going to talk about websites now. So Sam and I both use a lot of WordPress, and we like WordPress, and it's a shame that, you know, a certain person is bowling, because I'm sure she would contribute quite a bit to this conversation because she did last week as well. But I just, you know, I might even just share my screen through the
I
magic.
would like to point out that we specifically are using the WordPress self-hosted, not the WordPress.com, which is the sort of out-of-the-box freebie version. That's the easier one. We like the feature-rich, I'm going to add 20 plugins and break this. That's my go-to.
Yeah, I mean that's a great point. So we have WordPress.org, which is the place you can download the open source software from and run on your own web host. Or, I mean, most web hosts these days will actually give you a one-click installer, so that's easy enough. But I'm just gonna make myself.
We both did it. You did.
Okay, we both did it. There we go. Sometimes you need to make a call about who's going to do it. Are you going to do it this time? There we go. Thank you. So anyway, this is you know, a page on my website. So the thing I kind of wanted to mention, and it's a little bit meta because when I post my my podcast episodes, I need to include a URL to this page on my website. And essentially what I do is I post it without the video version, or if I scroll down to the bottom somewhere here, you'll see that I actually do have a podcast player in here. So it's kind of a two-step process. So I create this this content, I go to Libsyn and I publish it, and then the next morning when I've scheduled it to go out, I come back in and edit this. So I actually I use my own custom post types with some additional fields here, and this is actually something that I know Sam wants to do for Cute Avalanche. Yeah. So if I just go into one of my posts here, you almost need some thinking music as that loads. Essentially, what I've got at the top here is my post content. So this is the body of this particular article. And again, I think it's really important to actually think about the heading styles that you're using and links and other relevant content. In this case, because this show is literally a scripted show outside of interviews, I have my transcript ready to go, so I can copy and paste that in there. But the really neat thing about this is that once it's gone live, I actually have all these other features. So I can say that this is episode 12. I don't even use that number on my pages at the moment, but I love knowing it's there in case I do want to incorporate it in there later on. I've got a little button that says, does this have a podcast? If I click yes, it'll give me the ability to copy and paste that podcast embed code. And again, does it have a video as well? So I can do that for that. And once that happens, like this page mostly populates itself. And this is actually based on a template that I've created in Elegant Themes, the Divi plugin. It has this thing called the theme builder. So I can, most of this content is sort of pre-populated, but again, I just put my content in here and I'm sort of good to go. So I must admit, I don't update my website nearly as much as I should, which is kind of annoying. But there are only so many hours in the week. But I do try to include articles and information that I share on this show and elsewhere. So yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of things that you can do. I just wanted to sort of briefly cover that one there. So Sam, I know if we turn that off. Obviously you're also using WordPress. And I should say, like, honestly, full disclosure, I have a background in web design development. So don't feel bad if you haven't set up these things in this way, but I'm sort of curious to hear how you're going with both samproofs.tv and cuteavalanche.com.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of recently just started from scratch with all of that, as you well know, and so I'm learning right here. But yeah, so far I've just really been taking the basic post functions and doing blogs, but I literally had this thought when I had approached John to sort of do something complex with the Cute Avalanche channel, which was more related to just archiving and making sort of a database of our cats. And the minute I started working on that, I was like, I should be doing this for the podcast as well. Especially now, since we don't have that many episodes in, I'm like, it'll be easy enough to catch on. So yeah, it is something that I'm going to be looking at much closer in how I would do that. And I've done something similar a long time ago when I ran the Podpocalypse channel, and I was doing a bunch of other stuff, but that was like a decade ago. But it was very similar in a lot of ways. And I would want to, take in as much of that sort of information of like episode number, season number. We used to for Pizza Games and Zombies, we actually used to create a database that had like what was the pizza we were reviewing, what location we were actually at, because we had different studios that we would jump around to and things like that. And I think that's all fun information to gather.
And I guess the thing, and we'll probably work on this offline anyway, but I guess the thing is, you saw in that example, I'm recording the podcast number, like the episode number, but I'm not using that. But the great thing about this is I can add that to the template at any time. So, and I know Sam has this, he has a very analytical spreadsheet-driven mind. So we probably almost need to rein him in and say, a few fewer fields, but that, it's a great, I guess there are all kinds of ways of doing things. And
so.
like, but anyway. Mm-hmm.
But I was going to say, I would actually be willing to, not as part of this show, but just in general, live stream that process of John sort of showing me around. I did already start building out all those fields. I haven't created the template to sort of show things off yet, and that's kind of the big hurdle for me.
Sure. I just want to feature this comment. So Ender Trading is saying, I just spent nearly a week making one page for my website. I found it's the only way to rank these days. It has to be well researched and visually better than the competition.
Sure.
So I guess and I don't know if we've done it on this show. Certainly on my other show, I talk about this thing called signposting your content, and I think, because my background is this web design development thing, like there are all kinds of places where you can give Google and other human beings and Bing sort of clues about what your content is about, whether it's the title of the page, whether it's the meta description, whether it's the heading structure that you've used, the alternative text. Like there's all these opportunities to actually unpack your content and just make it a little bit more discoverable, because at the end of the day, like that, if it's great to produce content, but if nobody can find it, then nobody's enjoying it. So I think we've spoken about that sort of in a YouTube sense, but it is also true of website content as well. And, depending on the tools and the technology stack that you're working with, like some things are easier to do than others. Sometimes it does make sense to actually get somebody to come in with the expertise and help you build out the page. I know Sam especially is very DIY and always has been. And I think, and that's fine, because he does, like, he's been doing this for decades. He knows a lot, and he's really prepared to learn and invest that time, which is awesome. I think as someone who did work for a web design agency at one point, there are some people for whom even the most simplified interfaces are just too hard, and they'll always need somebody to do that work for them. And there's no shame in that, but I think the sooner you admit to that, like the better your life will be. You may need a team to help you with that. You may need a virtual assistant. It just depends. And again, even as someone who kind of knows what he's doing, like I don't always have the time to even add this show, like every episode of this show, to the website. And it's really something I probably need to spend a little bit of time and go back and do. So, like whatever you want to do is fine. It really does depend on your goals. So, yeah. All right, awesome. So this is the video and live streaming show. I'm John Lacey, and I'm joined by Sam Proof. Today we have been going behind the scenes. Actually, one thing I might, I was going to mention this earlier, but Camtasia would refuse to load. But I just want to show this because I think this is fun, and I love this, but people have a lot of feelings about this. So one of the major things in my setup is that I actually have this really cool teleprompter, and I've got a Sony ZV-E10 that sits inside of this, and I can either have a phone underneath it, or I actually have a third monitor that's in it at the moment. So, it's one of those weird things that when people hear about that, their first reaction is, I don't read and I don't want to read. And you've already heard my reading rants from earlier in the show, but the other thing is that even if I'm on a call, I can actually see the person I'm talking to in the camera, so I'm generally looking towards it. But
Yeah.
I think that's a really cool piece of tech, and I absolutely love mine. But it's weird how many people have feelings about that.
Yeah, and I would say with a teleprompter type situation, it's not necessarily about writing a whole script. It depends who you are. Maybe you're the person who wants a whole script, but really, if you have a good amount of knowledge of what it is you're probably going to talk about, it's just having an outline, a bulleted list of like, these are my talking points. I want to talk about video. I want to talk about streaming. I want to talk about Pokemon. I don't know. It can be used in a variety of ways. So it's just another asset, another tool to be used. Don't get intimidated by it.
Absolutely. And again, I guess the reason that came up this week was that somebody on LinkedIn was talking about CapCut on their phone, which actually does give you a sort of teleprompter feature, which is really, really nifty. Yeah. And if you go back to our CapCut episode, you can sort of see how that works. But again, it's really like whatever you need to share your message, to educate, to inform, to sell. Like, it just depends on what your goals are and what you're sort of aiming towards. So, that's something to keep in mind. So yes, I hope this has been helpful. I guess as we start to wrap up, Sam, can you tell us where people can find out more about you?
Yeah, you can find out all of my links over at samproof.tv, and grab any platform you like from the top right there. But for the most part, you'll find me over at cuteavalanche.com, which is this website here, and find out about all of our foster cats. And soon, with John's help, you'll be able to see the archive of all those cats.
Nice. And again, if you want to catch up with anything I'm up to, you can head over to johnlacey.com. The podcast, I was going to say all of the shows. I've just admitted 5 minutes ago that not all of the shows are up there. So let's not actually say that one, but certainly some of the shows, and there are articles about specific things. So I guess next week, we've already alluded to the fact that we're going to talk about OBS Studio. And again, I don't know why people are scared of OBS Studio. It's really not that scary, please. And it's literally free, and it's cross-platform. It's amazing. You don't need to know all the features to get started. So we're gonna walk you through that a little bit, because it is literally free. And as Roy, Tech Troublemaker, if you master OBS, it is worth the effort. And I know that Roy is an Ecamm Live user. But even he admitted recently that he's been playing with it again because of the Atom vertical plugin. So making some of that vertical content as well for things like YouTube Shorts and Reels and TikTok and all the different things. So we're going to give you a bit of a gentle introduction to OBS Studio next week. So if you have questions about that, if there are any other things that you'd like to hear on the show, let us know. But thank you, everybody, for today's conversation. It's been really great to see so much stuff happening in the chat. Again, if you are watching this later on, let us know with that hashtag Team Replay. And have a great week. We'll be back again roughly the same time next week to talk to you about OBS.
All right, see you guys.